I don't have a PowerPoint, so I'm going to be trying to, in 9 minutes or less, to help you to understand opportunities and challenges in trying to do business in China from Alaska. I had the pleasure of participating in the governor's trade mission to China back in May. It was the second time I'd visited Beijing and other parts of China. The first time was 10 years ago, when I'd first taken over Anchorage Economic Development Corporation, and the change in just a decade has been stunning. It has been just fascinating to see the differences that have taken place in China in just that short period of time. And this is the way things move in China. China is now, of course, the #2 economy in the world at a little over $12 trillion, as opposed to the United States' position of #1 at $19 trillion. What's interesting is that in the next 5 years, China is projected to be at 21 trillion, and the United States is expected to grow only to 23 trillion. So it's a massively expanding, rapidly expanding economy with an incredibly large middle class, over 300 million affluent middle class Chinese. The United States population, I want you to put that into context, just a little over 300 million right now. So this is something that is going to be an interesting path to go down if you are thinking about trying to invest in China. There are two paths basically that I've identified. One is the go into the marketplace and try and establish yourself directly in China path to becoming a partner with China in trade. The other path is to use an intermediary such as Alibaba or one of the other major online purveyors of goods to the Chinese consumer market, which is a path that has a little less risk but is also much more constrained. So when you look at how to invest in China, it is very challenging in the sense that you are dealing with the government more often as not, whether you realize it or not. Private independent commerce in China always has some form of government involvement, whether it's through the regulatory process or in the more common context, ownership of the company that you are doing business with. It is a fascinating market to try and enter from the United States. Setting aside the issues that we have today of trade wars or potential trade wars and government by tweet or by proxy in terms of the policies that are being put out and trying to keep up with those, it's a very challenging time to try and make a good calculation as to whether or not your particular product or service is well suited to the current environment that is currently going on in the trade relations. But if you are brave and willing to take the risks, there are a couple of paths to pursue. The path of actually engaging in direct investment within the borders of China is probably the most difficult path that you will take. It requires a lot of work, and there are plenty of experts in this room who've had this experience. Probably the one that I would refer to the most if you want firsthand experience is one of our other speakers today, Skip Nelson, who has done a tremendous amount of work with China and can share with you a lot of very specific experiences. But it's one built on relationships. It is one built on understanding the regional politics of the region that you are investing in, because there are multiple different facets to China's marketplace. The Eastern Seaboard is much more sophisticated, much more well-developed, and has quite frankly been ground zero for most of the economic revolution that has taken place in China in just the past few decades, and has been the center of investment. But now the Chinese national government is taking a position of, we're done investing in the Eastern Seaboard, we're investing in the interior. So now you're going to start seeing the Sichuan province as an example, where we visited for the provincial governors conference with U.S. governors. That is an area that is of intense interest to the Chinese national government to see significant development, because the communities that you're talking about are measured, a small town is maybe a few million. A mid-sized town is tens of millions. And then a very significant town is a metropolitan center is measured in 50+ million. That's the types of economies of scale that you're dealing with. Mead brings on the LNG issue. China is an importer of 12 million metric tons currently annually of LNG. That's not enough for their major conversion process from coal-based economy to natural gas-based economy for power generation, heating of homes, all of those types of elements that are the foundation of an energy-based economy. So they've made the decision just 4 months ago to go to 50 million metric tons within 5 years and to build out the infrastructure. It's a vertically integrated government. It doesn't have a lot of need to worry about permitting or those kinds of issues that we deal with in Alaska and elsewhere in the United States. And so when you start to get into these types of differences in the way you approach business, from the United States, from the Alaska setting, to the approach that you're going to have to deal with in China, it's a whole new world, and you're going to need the proper agents and the proper allies on the ground in China, which is a relationship-building process. So making those kinds of direct investments is an expensive and time-consuming process, and you have to have patience, and you have to be ready for the fact that it may not work out. So the other path that I would offer today, which is I think a little more suited to the Alaska entrepreneur in particular, is the path through a third party, such as Alibaba or some of the other online purveyors of goods in China. Alibaba is what I'll talk about because we visited their campus, and it is pretty much an amazing campus for a company that didn't exist that long ago. They are a major player in China in terms of providing everything from food delivered to your home within 30 minutes of you placing the order, as long as you're within a kilometer of one of their HEMA stores, and which has employed hundreds of thousands of contract delivery people, just as a new element in their economy, to the full-blown online delivery of vacation experiences, goods and products that Alibaba is renowned for. To put it into perspective and to give you a sense of scale of why Alibaba may be a path you want to consider, we all know about Black Friday and Cyber Monday, right? Everybody's familiar with that. That's about a $7 billion event in the United States for that 4-day period. Well, in China, the most auspicious day and the day that Alibaba focuses on is November the 11th, because the Chinese have a love of numerology, and 1111, 4 ones, is a very auspicious day. So they get they do their big sale day on November the 11th, and the really super attentive consumers will buy in the 11th hour, and the 11th minute, and the 11th second, just to assure that they get the best possible deal or get the best possible travel experience when they buy that travel product. November the 11th for Alibaba is a $32 billion day last year, just to give you a sense of scope and scale. It's just stunning what they do. And they have the services and the ability to connect you with different contractors and partners to help you get through the rather heavily layered permitting processes to be able to import your goods into China. And they have the ability to help you to craft your message and to consult with you. And they have a U.S. component that is there and can provide the services and the advice to help you to have better odds of success of delivering product. Now, is your product interesting to the Chinese consumer? That's going to take some research. That's going to take some efforts on your part. And that's going to be the more difficult aspect of this in some ways. Now, all things Alaska are very cool in China. We found that out when we were on the trade mission. We definitely were rock stars in the communities that we visited. We were covered by the national press in multiple ways, and it was pretty fascinating to engage in the conversations that we engaged in with different interests, different communities that were very focused on how to get Alaska on their radar and what kind of products we could have to offer. Our good friends from 49th State Brewing Company were rock stars on that trip. Their beer was popular in every town we went to. And but hey, that's manufacturing, and I will take manufacturing in any form that we can get in Alaska. We don't do enough of that. And to be able to export it, even better. The challenges, though, with Alibaba is going to be more about size and scalability. If you're a small player with a small offering, you're not going to get as much oomph through the Alibaba pathway as you would if you were a larger consortium. One of the things that we're working on is the tourism aspect of this. The Anchorage Chamber of Commerce, Visit Anchorage, and AEDC are working together to bring Alibaba representatives to Alaska. They're a little nervous about the date because they think they're going to be pretty exhausted. We're asking them to come up on or about November the 15th. That's a little close to that November 11th day when all hands are on deck. But we're hopeful that we're going to be able to get them up here then and to engage first and foremost in the Alibaba element of travel, which is known as Fliggy. That is their app. You can download this app today. Fliggy is their kind of take on Flying Piggy airline travel services. It's got a nice little cartoon pig head with a little chevron off to the side. It looks very cool and fun, and they think it's highly amusing, and it's one of their most successful recent developments in apps for Alibaba. They offer over 2 million travel products through the Fliggy site. So when you look at it from that perspective, that is an important opportunity on the transportation side of things, since this is a transportation sense, and the fact that we could be bringing a lot more Chinese tourists to Alaska, which is definitely an export of Alaska. You may not think about it that way, but that is in fact what we are doing. We are exporting the Alaska experience to a brand new market of hundreds of millions of potential consumers. So that's one of the reasons we're bringing Alibaba up. The other reason is for those who are thinking about selling products within the Chinese marketplace, because we need allies in this process. If you try to just throw up a website and hope that somebody from China is going to purchase from you, you're probably not going to get there. So there's a tremendous amount to talk about on this, which 9 minutes does not allow for. I just got the hook. I'm going to stop here, but I'll be happy to answer any questions or help with any follow-on following today's event. Thanks for your attention.